time to join us for our call today. We're going to be talking about talent optimization and have three very fine firms here and individuals who will be with us today. I've just started showing my screen to you, so hopefully you can see my screen on your screen. It says talent optimization at the top, and here's the information on the 4 speakers representing the 3 firms that will be talking today. Essentially, this call is going to last about 1 hour. Joe Houghton will lead us off. He is with Silk Road, and we'll be talking about getting the right people on the bus. We'll follow with Terry McKenna of Employee Performance Strategies, and Terry will be talking somewhat about creating the right system in your company where once you get the right people on the bus that they can succeed and perform well. And then Jim Mercer and Audrey Elwood with One CEO will be discussing their labor model that they use to get the most out of the employees, particularly in retail stores. So I think it should be an informative time. It'll last about 1 hour. At the end, we'll do a brief question and answer period. So if you have any questions, feel free to type in your little dialog box and go to webinar application, and that question will be sent to me, and then I'll be able to pass that on to the presenters at the end. And the slide information is going to be made available to all attendees kindly by our presenters. So at this point, we will go ahead and jump right on in there. Again, if any questions come to mind, feel free to type into your dialog box. And Joe, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Joe Houghton with Silk Road, and allow you to delve into getting the right people on the bus and sharing a little bit more about yourself here. So I'm going to make you the presenter here, Joe.
Okay. Thank you, Jed, and good afternoon, everyone. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to participate in the webinar and share how Silk Road Technology is helping other leading retail organizations optimize their talent through technology. I thought it'd be helpful to start out by introducing myself a little deeper and tell you a little bit about my background. Again, my name is Joe Houghton. I'm the Vice President of Channel Sales for Silk Road Technology. I'm based here in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. And a little bit about my background is I basically kind of quasi-grew up in the convenience store business. My father, Hugh Houghton, has owned 3 separate chains of convenience stores, is a past president of NACS, and for 15 years I worked with him at the National Advisor Group Convenience Stores Petroleum Marketers Association. Many of you guys are probably familiar with NAG back in the day. It's still around today. We sold the business to convenience store decisions, but at the height of our success, we had leading chains such as Sheetz, Wawa, Quick Trip, Huck's, and many, many others across the country as members of our organization. And throughout the years, I consistently would ask my father, why don't we go back in the convenience store business? And without a doubt, he always answered one word, and that was labor. So certainly can appreciate the challenges you guys face with the labor market and hiring top talent, and that's what I want to share with and focus with you today as Jed outlined. So I thought it'd be helpful to tell you guys, tell you guys a little bit about Silk Road, and then we'll dive in and talk about how we're helping organizations find and attract top talent. So Silk Road is a privately held organization. We are headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. We've grown to 20 offices across the globe. We have over 2,400 customers worldwide and some 400 employees. So I put a handful of some of our customers here at the bottom of the screen, some of our retail customers and some of our other larger customers to really illustrate some of the folks we're working with, such as, Hershey, First Data, Energy Transfer Equity. They have recently, if you guys well know, has bought the Sunoco Petroleum operation, and they're actually in the process of rolling out a recruiting and onboarding solution in the Northeast right now. We also have companies like Duke Energy and General Motors that have rolled out our solutions across the globe. So what's unique about our applications, and I'll talk a little bit more depth on them, is we can work with companies that have 50 employees and companies like General Motors that have 250,000 employees. So it's designed to be very easy for any size organization. So what do? we help organizations and retail organizations really automate their entire employee life cycle. So being able to take some of the HR processes you have and automate everything from how you attract and find and recruit top talent to making a consistent experience to onboard them into your organization, get them up to speed quicker around things within the organization, and then be able to provide a career path and performance management to be able to provide career development to those individuals. And lastly, really be able to highlight and push out automated training so you can not only track the training but make it a consistent experience. All of our solutions are hosted in the cloud. So if you guys are familiar with that term, we'll maintain the maintenance, the hosting, and support. But for the end user, even at the store level, all they need is an internet connection to be able to access some of the applications we support. So I thought today, based on my knowledge, we'd focus on how we can help you with some of the labor challenges and focus on how we're helping other retailers really attract and find higher quality applicants, being able to leverage screening tools within our organization on the pre-screening, even background screening to ensure compliance and you're hiring the right people, and then obviously be able to push out employee training and performance that at the end of the day will drive employee retention and hopefully reduce shrink at the store level. So why don't we talk about real quick and focus on how we can help you, find and attract the best talent, as Jed said, get the right people on the bus. So when we look at this, is what we're looking to do is be able to take, at a very basic level, take your employment application and automate that and put it in what's known as an applicant tracking solution or recruiting solution. This basically automates the entire process. It allows you to basically advertise your jobs, provide mobile access, and most importantly, give your store and your regional managers access to a qualified pool of candidates that at the end of the day will drive a consistent experience and compliance, but most importantly, make it easy for candidates to find jobs that you need to fill, and most importantly, make it easy for your managers to be able to find the top talent that's applying for those jobs. We can really whittle that funnel down and find the top applicants and help even at the store level those guys be able to hire those folks. So it'd be helpful to at least share some customer examples of how some other leading retailers are utilizing our solution firsthand. So this is an example of Starbucks in the Philippines. So this is their career portal. When you go to their career page, their website, and you click careers, it's actually our technology on the back end. I'll share a couple of these examples, but why I'm sharing this is allowing you to be able to leverage your brand, which is very powerful in your regional areas, to be able to leverage your brand to attract top talent. You can see there's much more here than just apply for jobs. It's, the store locations, events, things of that nature, frequent asked questions. They do a lot through social media. Starbucks does, just because of the level of people they're trying to hire, which we can turn on or turn off for folks. Another good example is Carlson, a large hotelier. As you can see, they have the ability to really highlight different positions, a variety of positions, whether it's the front desk or the valet. So whether it's food service, whether it's, a regional manager attracting people you're trying to find, we have the ability to push out different experiences for those audience and those people. Another good example is Crate & Barrel. So instead of showing you the job listing, I wanted to highlight the frequent asked questions, because what was happening with them is they were getting a lot of questions from their applicants. So what they did is they were able to put a page here with frequent asked questions to be able to help those applicants with those questions so they can get people to apply. And a couple more examples is Little Caesars Pizza. I showed this just to illustrate, as you can see, the job listing, multiple job listings in multiple different locations, different states, things of that nature. We can push that out. We can streamline that entire process, and we've been able to do that for Little Caesars. And the last example is Bob's Stores. And simply showed this one just to show they have on their career portal, videos for the employees of why they selected Bob's and why they wanted to work for that organization. So really this is kind of a high level of showing you how we can wrap your branding to really attract top talent.
Joe, what
do we do once we've...
Oh, Joe, quick question. What are some of the biggest challenges guys face, HR folks, when they're trying to get, the right people on the bus, finding that top talent?
Well, it becomes, good question, Jed. So really it becomes volume. So if you don't have an automated solution, you may have 200-300 people apply for a job. It's very difficult to weed through and find out who the top person is quickly without that being automated. That's one of the biggest things. Then being able to leverage that network and push it out if they're on social media as well. But at the end of the day, it's going to help them, reduce that cycle time to find those folks or fill those positions.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And so once you've got them hired into your organization, let's talk about how we can make it a consistent experience to onboard them into your organization. And this is an example of MAPCO. They're one of our customers. This is an example of their onboarding portal. So once somebody is hired at the store level, a manager can log in and actually send out this welcome email that will have all this information captured in this portal that you see here. And what it's allowing them to do is be able to streamline the entire process of the paperwork they're filling out. So instead of spending a bunch of time filling out paperwork, it's automating this process on the front end for the new hire as well as the HR department on the back end to drive compliance. But it also is increasing, most importantly, day one readiness. So instead of someone filling out this paperwork, they can be working on training and things of that nature to be more successful day one and get up to speed quicker and obviously get on the floor quicker. Another good example of one of our customers leveraging onboarding is Frisoli. So you guys might be familiar with this chain. Again, they put over 16 new hires through the solution. So the manager initiates it at the store level. They're doing E-Verify through here, so verifying that employment level. We can do that as well. And again, as you can see, as I scroll through, able to push out videos and training seamlessly through the solution. So really trying to emphasize that we can get employees up to speed quicker. So just to recap, we talked about how we can help attract and find top talent. So now let's talk about how we can help you retain them. So we also have a performance management solution that I touched on that will allow organizations to really align employee and corporate goals and objectives, be able to measure the performance of your employee base, and be able to reward them with a pay-for-performance environment if you want, or be able to identify future successors within your organization and provide ongoing career development seamlessly through the web. This solution is seamlessly integrated into our what we would refer to as a learning management solution that really automates your training. So we can provide centralized training programs. It can ensure and drive compliance. At the end of the day, it significantly has served to reduce cost around the training. And again, the biggest thing is being able to track and manage the efficiency of the training ongoing within an organization. And all this can be done through the web. So we've talked a lot about, the solutions. Now I want to give some hard results on what some of our customers have experienced after they've implemented these solutions. The first one I want to focus on is Tenneco. So Tenneco has rolled out our applicant tracking solution, or the portals that I shared and talked to you about. And one of the biggest savings you'll see overall right off the bat is in the year one, they saved over $200,000 just automating this process. So moving from a paperless process. And as I pointed out and mentioned to you, Jed, this is creating a bigger candidate pool. So now they have a wider selection of folks they can pull from to be able to find the right candidate. And then it's really increasing, that's helped to drive the increasing quality of hire, the people that they're hiring. They've also implemented our onboarding product. So again, making a consistent experience once you hire someone to onboard them in the organization. Again, another significant savings of over $250,000 by being able to automate this process. And one of the bigger things to highlight here is it's eliminated almost 95% of their process is now paperless. So it's eliminated paper in the process, so really being able to drive compliance and, again, driving that day one readiness of their employee base. And the last customer example I want to share with you is High Sierra. So High Sierra has, after they implemented a learning management solution to automate their training processes, has experienced 100% reduction in time in training, which is pretty significant, and their proof of training has been completed. So they're able to really drive compliance, so they now have a way to track and manage that training's been completed of their employee base. So in conclusion, I thought it'd be helpful to provide a few takeaways based on our presentation today. First takeaway is around recruiting. So recruiting technology can increasingly increase the quality of your applicants and decrease the cost and time it takes to find them by automating this process. And again, it goes back to being able to really leverage your brand to be able to drive those candidates through this process. The second takeaway is around onboarding. So again, you've heard me mention this several times, improving day one readiness, getting an employee up to speed quicker so they can be more productive in the organizations quicker. We can do that by automating that entire process. And that can be drilled down to even department position location. So it can be a different experience for a regional manager versus a store manager versus an executive you may be hiring. And then lastly, the last takeaway is around training and really driving compliance in the organization, ensuring compliance with training and being able to automate it. So, by automating, you stand to gain adoption of the technology to improve compliance training, but also reporting. And then if you are in an audited situation, you provide reports to be able to support any upcoming audits. So Jed, that's my overview of my presentation. Tried to keep things short and sweet because I know we have a limited amount of time today.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Joe. One other quick question for
Okay.
me. How are most of the top performing chains out there in the industry approaching this whole issue of attracting the right talent? Are they trying to automate and use systems kind of like what you've proposed here today?
Yes, Jed, good question. Yes, they are. So I think you're seeing more and more of a push in the industry, and significantly, and you can go out to some of their websites, Sheets being one of them, and some of the others, that they're looking to automate these processes. They're driving the cost out of them, but again, it goes back to finding that the top talent, the right person for the right position at the right time, which you're able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And
then the other thing that I think is big is just around training. Again, you have multiple stores, multiple different locations. People do training all different ways, but if you're able to automate that, you can really streamline that process, make it a consistent process, and be able to drive compliance within the organization as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Joe, for taking the time to share a little bit about that whole process. I know it's a big challenge for folks to one, to go out there and get candidates that can pass the drug tests and all of that, and then to your point of retaining those folks, once you get somebody who's a really good candidate, you want to be able to hang on to them as long as you can, get them trained and up to speed. Well, Joe, appreciate your time, and at this point I'm going to switch over to Terry McKenna, and Terry's going to talk a little bit more about organizationally creating a structure that is going to allow the good people that you have found and hired to succeed in your firm. And so, Terry, I am just at this very moment making you the presenter here. So hopefully you see that now on your screen. And Terry, the floor is yours. Terry, are you there? We can't hear you. We can see your screen though on our computer.
I'm
there
showing,
we go, Terry. There we go,
you
Terry.
good?
I think we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you and share some insights with you. These are my companies, Employee Performance Strategies, Inc., and Convenience Store Coaches. Convenience Store Coaches specializes specifically in the petroleum and convenience store industry. Prior to launching these firms back in 1997, I worked for Mobil Oil. It was before the Tiger came in and ate the Pegasus. That was in 99. We had left in 97. But at Mobil, I worked in the U.S. marketing division, both domestically and international. I was the retail development manager over in the Pac Rim region. This is what my organizations do. I won't read the things that you can obviously see, but we are a performance-based consulting firm. We do training, but training is just one method. There's a broader base. I think what companies want today is performance. Training is one element of performance, but there's many components, and what I'm going to talk about is exactly some of those components. We focus twofold on people and systems, system being organizational design. How do people work within your organization? And that's pretty much going to be the focus of my presentation this afternoon. So, once you find the right people, how do you optimize performance? Because that's what you want at the end of the day. I'm going to take you through a three-point agenda. I'm going to talk about strategic fit, alignment, and metrics. And let me explain to you the teaching method that I like to employ this afternoon. Sometimes the best way to teach a lesson is by asking good questions. A good question encourages, I don't know where that came from, let's see. A good question encourages reflection, and some of the best solutions to problems and opportunities come from within if you take meaningful time to reflect on the question. In most cases, you folks, you possess the answers and solutions within yourself, and I think a good question helps to unlock some of those answers and solutions. So with my allotted time this afternoon, I'd like to pose a few questions for you to deeply think about. And each question I'm going to ask, and I've got 12 of them, each one represents an opportunity to improve your organization. The objective of my presentation is for you to, number one, think deeply about these questions. More importantly, not so much on this presentation, but when this presentation is over. Number two, I'd like to challenge your current assumptions and paradigms. And number three, hopefully be able to develop new insights that will better serve you and your organization. At the end of the presentation, I do have some next steps. I've outlined a 4-point action plan for your consideration. First, let me explain what I mean by people and system. You can have great people, but if they work within a system that hinders rather than facilitates high performance, those employees are going to get frustrated and they're going to quit. Or worse yet, they'll quit, but they'll remain with your company on payroll while they're performing their jobs below potential, and you're paying for all that. That's the worst case scenario. But a system is what your employees work within. It's the how, if you will. It's the rules, the regulations, and the procedures of how they're supposed to do their jobs. Part of that is your culture, but it's more rules, regulations, procedures, processes, communication. It's how we do things within your respective company. A great system consists of processes and procedures that cost effectively and efficiently delivers results by maximizing organizational performance. As I mentioned earlier, you could hire great talent, but the system takes over. Once they're brought in and onboarded, and then they're put into the work environment, the system takes over to help optimize the talent that is within that individual. A fully aligned system ensures that all company departments and job positions are connected at the hip towards achieving common company goals, and that you behave as one team, not two teams. I cannot tell you how many of our clients, they say they're one organization, they are two. There's headquarters personnel and there's field personnel, two different teams. And quite frankly, in some of these organizations, the field think that they work for headquarters, as opposed to the other way around. In our view, headquarters support is there for one reason only, to support field personnel. Those are the ones that are driving sales every day. Also, a great system ensures that the company's goals and the employee's goals are mutually reinforcing. When you can align both sets of goals, organizational and employees, that's when you're on your move to becoming a high-performance organization. Also, I don't know why this thing keeps popping up on my end. A great system ensures that your people are put in a position to succeed, and it encourages them to reach their full potential. So in our view, within my firm, fix the system first, then focus on the people. Let me just go back to that one slide. Here's an example. Your system represents this NASCAR. It's a $500,000 car. It's capable of going 200 miles an hour. And when I put a right driver in that car, such as this young lady, you will be a high-performance organization. But sometimes we hire people who are not like this young lady. They're substandard people, and then we try to put them into a good system. The great thing is if you get a good system in place, it will attract the right kind of people, and it will expel the ones who slip through the crack very, very quickly. That's why I said let's fix the system first. Then we'll focus on the people. All right, let me get started. And let me talk about strategy and strategic fit. Everything starts and ends with customers. At least it should. And in working backwards from your customers, organizations develop their strategy. Strategy is everything. So the question that I have for you here, make sure we're okay, is strategic fit. Do you have the right talent to execute your strategy? Now, if the answer is no, then I would suggest you begin by identifying the competencies required to execute your organization's strategy. And not implement it, that's phase one, but consistently execute day in and day out. So find out, identify the right competencies, and the way you could try to identify the right competencies is, number one, start interviewing for and hire those competencies. Competencies are innate. You can't teach them, but you can certainly hire for them. Now within your existing workforce that may not exactly have the required competencies to execute your company strategy, start developing their skill sets and provide tools so you can get them close to those competencies that your strategy required. So go back, look at your strategy, and ask yourself, do we have the talent to pull this strategy off? And if the answer is no, identify the required competencies, develop some behavior-based, competency-driven questions, and start looking for, recruiting, and interviewing and selecting those competencies, while at the same time with the existing workforce, a lot of skill development to get them close to those competencies. Like I said, they're innate, so you can't teach somebody to be friendly, which is a competency, but you can certainly hire friendly, but develop skills and tools to at least support them around those competencies. The second thing I'd like to talk about is alignment. Is your organization's infrastructure properly aligned to implement, execute, and support your organization's strategy? Roughly what we've seen is about 37% of a strategy's potential is lost due to poor alignment. So if you're of the opinion that your strategy lacks alignment, here's what I would suggest. One, I would conduct face-to-face employee meetings or town hall type meetings, or you could survey your organizations with programs like SurveyMonkey, and ask your employees who are responsible for executing your organization's strategy, simply ask them this question. What gets in their way and either slows them down or prevents them from effectively performing their jobs? Ideally, face-to-face is better because we communicate more through body language and tone. And when you can look into somebody's eyes, then you get the real story, unlike a survey. You go online, it's just numbers and ratings. That doesn't really mean anything. A town hall gets you close, but it's not, that's a bunch of people, but it's not like a one-on-one thing. But find out what are the roadblocks to allowing these folks to perform their job effectively. Is it policies and procedures that are stifling? Is it your company culture? And what we've seen, the biggest one is you've got non-leaders in leadership positions. And that is crippling organizations. Whatever it is that's blocking your people at all levels, from the CSR behind the transaction counter to your drivers of the transports, all the way up to the CFO and CEO, what's blocking their performance? Find those root causes and fix them quickly. Because in today's competitive environment, your competition is hoping, one, you don't identify them, and two, you're slow. Speed is, speed wins and speed kills. So find the root causes and get after those things quickly. And the last piece, and I'm probably going to spend most of my questions, 10, are on metrics, because at the end of the day, it all boils down to metrics. So here's a couple questions that I'd like you to think about. And as I mentioned earlier, each question, up to the ones that I've asked so far on, do you have strategic fit? Are you properly aligned? These last 10 questions are metric-based, and each one in and of itself represents an opportunity to get better. But the first question is, do you measure your strategy's results against objectives and strategic intent? Do you circle back on the strategy? Too many companies, they launch a strategy, they know what the goals, objectives, the intent is, they implement it, say, October 1st, but they never circle back to say, is it meeting what we said it would meet? And in many cases, it's achieving results, but it's not achieving the full potential. So always have some kind of a circle back. So I would ask your people in the field today and your leadership team, whatever your strategy is today, is it achieving the objectives? And if the answer is yes, then where's the hard numbers? Where are the metrics? Where is my clear, clean data that says that it is? Otherwise, it's just intuition and it's guesswork. The second question is, do you measure the right metrics? And what I mean by the right metrics are the metrics that matter to your customers. People do not need more information. We are overflowing with information. What we lack is understanding. So really boil down to, and you could probably provide the old Pareto analysis. I'm sure you're familiar with the 80-20 rule. Of all the data you've got out there today, you could probably boil it down to 20%. And I'll talk about that 20%. This is the data that's really going to help you drive your business. Do you attach accountability and consequences to the metrics? In many cases, what we've seen with organizations, there is no accountability, there's no consequence. As a result, nothing gets done. People need to be held accountable. And there needs to be a consequence attached to their actions. And a consequence could be a good consequence. They might get promoted, they might get a pay raise, they might get greater job responsibility. But a negative consequence means they may be removed from that position or worse yet from the company. You're never going to be a high-performance organization if you tolerate dead wood. You have to identify the dead wood and get it out of the organization. And a good system helps identify and do that for you on their own. But whatever you do, there has to be accountability and consequences to everything that you have out there. Another metric is, have you identified the metrics that drive the behaviors that lead to success? So what are the behaviors you need at the store level, with your salespeople, with your transport, with your lube division, whatever the employees are, especially the ones touching the customer, what are those behaviors that's going to lead to success? If you don't know what they are, there's homework assignment number one. Do you recognize and reinforce these behaviors so that they're repeated? Once you've identified, all right, these are the 3 behaviors we need from our CSR. These are the 5 from the store manager. Here's the director of ops. Here's supervisors. Here's my lube division manager. Whatever it is, and I'd recommend no more than 5. Don't do a laundry list. It's a wish list. It's too much. I'd focus on, ideally, 3. What are the critical 3 behaviors? And once you've identified those behaviors, and you may have to provide some skill development to teach those behaviors, but then you're not done when the training ends. Then you got to reinforce and recognize those behaviors, because whatever you recognize and reinforce gets repeated. Do you systematically measure job performance and employee skill gaps, and then develop individual development plans, what we call IDPs, to address these skill gaps? I think it's immoral, quite frankly, and I'm comfortable using that word, immoral. It's a strong word, to go out and ask people to do things that we have not properly prepared them to succeed. We're human beings, and we all have flaws, and we all have strengths and weaknesses. But try to identify, especially in the leadership ranks, because they're driving and leading everybody else, what are the gaps? What are their performance gaps? And what type of developmental plan do we need to have in place to close these gaps? Are your metrics timely, relevant, and do they drive business results? It kind of gets back to the 80-20 rule. What you really want is the need to know, not the nice to know information. All that stuff is fine. I'm not saying a lot of information is not good, but find the metrics that drive the business results every day. And I'll tell you what, if you do that, I'll bet you could put it on an 8.5 by 12 sheet of paper, because we've done that. All the other metrics are good. It's good background metrics. But what do I need in my hand every day as I step out of my door and I'm trying to grow this business? You could probably do it on one piece of paper. Do you place key metrics in the hands of the people who produce them? You know, it's kind of hard to expect people to perform and they don't know what the scoreboard is. Every sport that we participate in, there's a scorecard. And yet we want our employees to win out there, but we never tell them what the score is. So what you could do is, you could take the key metrics and you could organize and publish them into a scorecard and or a dashboard format so that all the employees know the score, and more importantly, how they're contributing to that score. That helps influence their behavior. If I know if I do this, it impacts my store or my lube division by this, then chances are I'm going to change how I do things, because now I got the scorecard right in front of me. And this is important, and this is really for ownership. Do you measure the world around you so that you're prepared to seize the future when it arrives? This is a good industry. We would have never been talking about some of the competitors that we're talking about today just 5 years ago. And the challenge is, who next is going to infringe into this industry years from now? So we need to get out and not just live within a convenience or petroleum paradigm. We need to see the whole world at large. And see, really, that way we're prepared for it, and more importantly, not prepared for it, but now you're starting to create your own future. You're not sitting back waiting for somebody to come in as a disruptor and thinking, well, now we have to do something to react to this new competitive threat. If that's the situation, it's too late. It's already happened because you're behind the 8 ball. So you need to get out of this industry and experience the world around you so we're ready for the future. So from a next step standpoint, let me wrap up with 4 next steps I'd like you to consider. Number 1, schedule some time blocks on your calendar to think deeply about the questions that I've posed today. And I know Jed is going to send out a copy of this presentation. I know you're busy. Close your door. Don't let anybody come in, and deeply ponder some of these questions. Then review these questions with your management team and see if you're on the same page. It will shock you that how many people on your management team don't view these questions the same way you do, and you're thinking, my God, we're all the same company. We see things so differently. If your management team is not looking at things the way you are, imagine the rest of the organization. So you talk about gaps and being out of alignment. The real power is when you get everybody, all hands on deck, rowing to the same tune in the same direction towards a common goal. That's very, very powerful. But, you know, you go through your questions first and maybe give them out to the management team and then have a meeting to see how you think of these questions. And I think it will shock you how you view things differently. Number 3 on your next steps, consider putting together work teams to address and tackle and develop some actionable solutions of these questions. Like I said, I posed 12 questions here. Look at them and decide, maybe let's go after some of these. But I would suggest, rather than go after all of them, of all the questions I posed this afternoon, pick one. Pick the one question that if you attack that question first, it will hopefully eliminate or resolve many of the other questions. Don't do laundry lists. Everyone has these big laundry lists. At the end of the day, nothing gets done. But pick the one thing and then get a work team together with all levels of management at different organizations, and then you can go after these things. And the last thing I'd like to leave you with is just this thought. I think a lot of people think they have all the answers, and quite frankly, my intent here was to get you thinking differently and step back and say, well, maybe I need to take a look at some of these things differently because, as this quote says here, the illusion of knowledge could be extremely dangerous and much more dangerous in these days. So with that, Jed, I would like to kick it back over to you.
Thank you, Terry. A lot of good, thoughtful information in there. I found it interesting. You pointed out, you know, or really stressed, I should say, the attention to metrics that we all need to have, and highlighted the importance of getting the right metrics in place to drive the behavior and the performance that you want. Do you have an example or two of a metric that you would recommend or suggest to folks?
I think at the end of the day, you start with your customer, and you really find out, you get close to your customers and find out really what is important to them. And in many cases, customers have a hard time of articulating. A customer really never asked for a microwave or a Walkman or an iPod because they didn't exist. But always, first and foremost, start outward with the customer. And once you find out what's important to them, then try to boil it down to 3 things, and then try to boil it down to 1 thing. And then develop a metric around that 1 thing, and develop systems that encourages and facilitates your organization consistently delivering that one metric. And don't hire companies to come in and do customer surveys for you. Do intercepts. When you're on site with customers, if they're at your convenience store, managers ought to be hanging out in the island talking to customers, saying things like, hey, if you could change one thing at this store, what would you change? Or what's the things that we really do that bug you? When your drivers are out making deliveries, talk to the customer. What's the most important thing? Bring that information back and then put a scorecard around that and develop a system that says, now how do we consistently deliver this customer need and expectation? And then measure it, assign accountability and consequences, and recognize and reinforce the behaviors that's driving that 1 metric. But start with the customer, work backwards, and try to give them that 1 thing as opposed to trying to be all things to all people.
Mm-hmm. Well, good stuff. Thank you, Terry, for taking the time here to be on the call. And speaking of metrics, we will transition the call over to Jim Mercer and Audrey Elwood, who are with One CEO. And part of what Jim and Audrey do is work with firms to improve the efficiency of the labor that they use in their store. And Jim and Audrey, I'll turn the floor over to you and allow you to elaborate a bit more on kind of your model and how you get the most out of the employees that you have in your stores.
Thanks, Jed. Hi to everyone. My background is I started a chain of convenience stores and sold them in 1990 to Stewart's, and started doing some consulting on the labor side. And what we really do is simple math. When people know what to do and when, there's much less stress in everybody's life in the company, and especially the associates and the store manager. It's simple math. 60 seconds, 1 minute. If you're paying labor costs you about $12 an hour, for every minute you save or don't save and waste costs you 20 cents or $12. So with our program, if we come in and we save 1 hour, or if you figure out how to save an hour a day, it's $3,600 a year times whatever number of stores you have. It's an awesome amount of money. So it's based, we do a task list, and Audrey will go over how we develop a task list. And we kind of do it as Terry said, we get store managers together, and they actually create the list of all of the tasks that are done in your stores, not necessarily their stores, but in all stores. And then we do an individual task list by store. So it is developed by the managers. And each store is different. You cannot do a task list from an office. And I agree with what Terry said. There are no cash registers at headquarters. They're out in the stores, and headquarters are there to help the stores do a better job. And with that, I'll turn it over to Audrey, and we'll talk about task lists.
Like Jim said, we work with, start off with the store managers, a small group of store managers, and have them go through and give us everything that has to be done in the store. And we ask the store managers to do that, and we ask management to give us your best store managers so that we can get your store standards, whatever it happens to be at your particular store, to be done correctly. This is a master task list. It's in front of on the screen right now. And we picked just a cooler because almost every store has coolers. And there's different kinds. There's a front-loading cooler, there's a rear-loading cooler, and the walk-in coolers. And then there's also a lot of stores now have beer caves, which all have to have taken care of differently. In this particular store, I wanted you to look at what each one of the tasks entails. For this particular company, stocking the front-loading cooler meant pulling off all the product that was already on a shelf so that they could rotate the stock and then putting back in the new stock. In the rear cooler, it was just, of course, loading from the rear, stocking it completely and taking out the trash and crates. They also had a touch-up in the rear loading cooler where someone would just run in and stock the high-volume areas and take out the trash, break down the boxes and the crates. And then they also would pull product from the front and face it. So 3 different tasks that had to be done on the cooler. The next slide, Tim. Tim, would you move it to the next slide? Okay. After we've met with the store managers and we've developed a master task list for every single item in your store, whether it's frying chicken, cleaning the gas pump, stocking the cooler, wiping down the coffee bars, how long it takes to make coffee, how often do you make coffee in your stores. Every single item is taken care of, and we take the information that the store managers have given us, and then we actually go out to the store and do our own testing to see if the times that they've given us are correct or close. Most of the time they are. Sometimes some of the stores can be a little bit off. On this sheet that is in front of us, we set each one of the tasks up that we just showed you on the master task list into a planner. Most of the stores have asked, in this particular company, they wanted the full stocking of their coolers done on second shift. In units, it indicates how many doors that they have in their cooler. So this particular store has 7 doors on a rear loading cooler, and the MPT stands for minutes per task. So it takes 7 minutes to fully stock the cooler, like we discussed on the task list, to fill every single door. And that's done on second shift. Like Jim said before, most of this is simple math. If we have 7 doors, and we do this on one time on second shift, 7 minutes per door, throughout the week it takes 343 minutes to do the one task. So then we have the touching up the rear loading cooler, which is done on first shift. And that can be just getting in there and throwing some milk up on the cooler, taking care of the Pepsi, the energy drinks, the fast-moving items in the cooler. And the same way with the beer cave. The heavy stocking is done on the second shift when normally we have 2 people on duty, and the touching up is done on the first shift. All of this rolls up into the time that is taken, that we spend doing for this particular cooler. We chose a cooler, like I said, because pretty much everybody has a cooler. This also depends on the volume. In stores that are higher volumes, we may have the touching of the, and we've even had a few stores that it was done every half an hour. Those happen to be college stores during football games. So it is all depending on the volume in the store as well. Okay, next slide, please. This is a summary of the labor planner. We take all the tasks that have to be done in your store, every single thing that we can think of, and the fixed tasks and the variable tasks, and we total it up, how much time it needs to be spent in this store to do all of the work, all of the tasks, to keep it in tip-top shape for your customers. In the wintertime, how many times are you taking care of the floor? In some stores, it's going to be more time spent on the floors in the summertime or on a rainy day than it is on a slower day. Volume makes a big difference on how often the task is done in each store. So these are the total minutes spent on all of the work that's done in the store. And we use that along with the customer count. How long does it take your people to take care of their customers? Most customer transactions take 30 seconds or less. Even in stores where they're checking for age or checking ID or doing a money order, even those stores, on average, a customer transaction takes 30 seconds or less. And we look at where are your customer counts coming from and which store, where can the tasks be done. That's one of the best things about the planner, is that we are able to assign the job when the store associate has time to do the work. So in this particular store, on the cooler and the beer cave together is over 24 hours just to take care of the cooler. So there's 24 hours of work to be done in the cooler to keep it up in tip-top shape. There's other information on this slide, and it goes down to how much the sales per labor hour is on that store based on their sales as well. I'm not sure what metrics that you're using in your stores, but sales per labor hour is one that a lot of stores use, or labor percentage. Either way, you have to make the best use of labor in your stores. And that's what we're looking at too. This particular, every store is different depending on, like I said, on the volume and the type of business and services that they have. So the goals have to be different for every store. And this store was projected to do right at $100 sales per labor hour, and this was done in the wintertime, and they were getting very close. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
If you look at the labor planner, what we do is we create a shift duty checklist for each individual shift, and it shows the associates when there is time to do these tasks. So it spreads the tasks over the whole, if you're open 24 hours, over the whole 24 hours. So that one shift doesn't get all of the, what associates call the dirty work in the store. And it really improves the morale, and it takes the stress out of the store for the store manager. When typically when we do the store, the associates will like the program because now they know when the work can get done, and how that's figured out is, as Audrey was talking about, when you take the customer count, normally like this company that was stocking the cooler on the second shift between the hours of about 1:30 and 3:30 or 4, if you have 2 people on, there's probably about 70 to 80 minutes that are not needed at the register for customer service. So they now know, instead of standing around, they know that there's time to do that. So that's why stocking the cooler would be on the second shift in the store. Okay, Audrey, sorry.
No, that's right. That's right. And it's also a good management tool, because when you know how many minutes it takes for that particular task to be done in the store, as a store supervisor or a regional manager, if you can come to the store, pick up that shift duty checklist, because they are unique for each store, pick it up and say, oh, you had time to get the cooler done. It's not looking up to par. Can you tell me why? What happened? If they don't have a good excuse like, oh, there was a festival in town and we got slammed, you know, then it's something that the store, the management can address. The second labor planner here, we used a slower volume store to show you that sometimes the tasks take pretty much the same time, even though it is a slower store. So we have to look at it to think of other ways that we might be able to make a difference. I pointed out this store particularly because it has a front-loading cooler, and then front-loading coolers take quite a bit more time to stock than a rear-loading cooler, and I think everybody knows that. And the slower-moving items are usually put into a front-loading cooler, unless it's up front on an end cap or something. And then, but the point is, all of that product has to be taken off and restocked so that you can have the freshest product in the back and the older product in front to use first. It does take a lot more time. So 12 minutes for 4 hours, for 4 doors, 4 front-loading coolers is quite a bit of time to take care of that one, the front-loading coolers. So this is a slower volume store, and we're looking at just the cooler section. It does have a beer cave. And when you look at the next slide, the time to take care of this slower volume store is really just about 16 hours less on the cooler than the previous store. So even though this store has a lot of the same work, we're looking at their customer count as well and how much time that they have to do the work, and trying to cut that as close as we can to get their sales per labor hour up, looking at different things that we can do. While we're in the store, we're also looking at different ways that we might be able to save steps. If we see something that's being done that's repetitive, that shouldn't be done, or that there's no reason for it to be done, we report that back to management and look at it. One of the things we noticed in one particular company was that they only had one person allowed to run the lottery for the lottery machine for accountability, which is a good idea. But the store was having people stand in line to buy the lottery tickets. We told the company that they needed to get another lottery machine, which they did, and increase their sales. So one of the things that by being in the stores and looking things over, sometimes that we can help just by observing. This particular store, again, we roll up all of the tasks, how many hours it takes of work to be done in the store. look at all of the hours and then how many minutes from that are available to do the work when a store is not waiting on customers. A lot of the work can be done on third shift, as long as it's not something that's going to be placing the associate in danger, and we do whatever your procedures are for your particular company. If you say that you don't want somebody filling the cooler on third shift, we understand that. Or if you don't want them to go outside and do the parking lot, we understand that. We build a planner according to what your specifications are and your policies for your company. Okay, Jim?
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim, and I work here at One CEO. And what my responsibilities are is to develop software that takes all of the information that you've just heard and make it so that it's accessible and easily maintained from your location, from the retail location as well. And what you're seeing right now is the front page of our website, oneceo.com, and I do encourage everyone to go and check this website out. Once you become a customer and would like to start saving some money, we would build you a portal and you would receive login information. Very straightforward and simple. And we will build out all of the various tasks you can do. This will change depending on your needs. This will allow you to quickly and simply print tasks, view them, enter time on task lists. It all depends who logs in. If it's one of your associates at the retail location, they will see a different list than you would. And an example of this, for example, is this may be an associate reviewing time spent. You'll notice that some of them are red. This indicates that it took longer to complete the task than what was projected. And this is important because as a manager or as an administrative position, you would want to know exactly what's taking too long. And what's nice is it can automatically alert you that it's taking too long to do a certain task so that you can correct it, which is very nice. This allows for time entry. You can enter in, for example, how long does it take you to stock the front-loading cooler? You can then start using this metric data to determine why does it take longer on shift 3 and make changes accordingly. You can simply add tasks as simple as filling in the information and adding it. And this would then push out to your retail locations. You can also remove them just as easily. Very clean, very simple. And we want to give you our contact information. I kept it kind of short. I know we're running out of time. But we do provide all the tools, and this runs on iPads, phones, laptops, even point-of-sale systems. So we can accommodate your needs. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jim, Audrey, and Tim. We really appreciate that. Also encourage anybody listening, if you have any questions for any of the presenters, feel free to type them into your dialog box and send them over to me. Jim, Audrey, one question. In your experience, where tends to be the greatest opportunity for labor improvement?
Well, in my experience is we always look at the stores that are costing us money, that are low volume. Where the money is, savings are in your best stores. And those stores typically use one of the company we did Hux with Audrey worked there. The first store we did, we eliminated 100 hours because it was a highly profitable store, and management was not paying attention to the amount of hours that were used in those stores. They were paying attention to the hours in the non-performing stores.
Mm-hmm. Well, appreciate you sharing that. A couple other questions that came in that are more, what I would say, organizational focused questions here. One is just about the presentation, and it asks, can we get a printed copy of the presentations or electronic copy of the presentations? I couldn't write as fast as some of the information was coming, and the short answer is yes, we'll be sending out the slides here that were presented, and then also there'll be a rebroadcast link that will be sent out as well, so one could re-watch this webinar or forward that link on to anybody in your company so they can participate in the webinar as well. And again, Joe Houghton with Silk Road, really thank you for your time, and Terry McKenna and Jim and Audrey as well. I did want to mention one thing. The topic here has a lot to do with HR, and I think Terry did a good job kind of illustrating the need for creating a system in your company where your employees can succeed once they're there, and give them clear and transparent feedback so they can do the best at their job. And I wanted to make people aware that Study Groups is in the process of forming an HR-focused study group. We have study groups for CFOs, for ops managers, fuel buyers, food service managers, etc., and I've really noticed the need to have HR folks involved in the study group too. Our initial group that we're in the process of forming already has about 8 to 10 firms that are excited to get going. Terry McKenna, who is one of the presenters on the call here, is going to facilitate that HR-focused study group. So we're real excited about that. If you have any interest in getting involved in as a charter member of that initial group, feel free to send me your information, and we can get you more information about the group. Again, everybody, thank you for your time being on the call. And if any questions come in later, feel free to either send them to me or any of our presenters, and they'll be happy to follow up with you with more information on any of your questions. At that, I will go ahead and sign off and wish you all a very good day. Goodbye.